Welcome to Compas on the beat. We have arrived NFL Wildcard weekend, and it's not super. Do not give me the super Wildcard weekend. It's a regular weekend. I know there's more games now with the seven-team format, but it's just a regular weekend. But I am excited that we got all the matchups that we were all looking for. At least I think. Rams versus Lions, Texans, Browns, Steelers, Bills, Dolphins, Chiefs. I don't really care about that one, but I'll let you know in a bit. And then we got what we have. I'm already blanking. Buccaneers, Eagles, and I know I forgot one, but whatever. We're gonna break it all down soon here on Compas on the Beat. I'm Gilberto Manzano. People know me as Gilbert or Gil. I cover the NFL for Sports Illustrated, and I'm a co-host and a co-founder here on Compas on the Beat. But I'm not alone. We got the voice from Compas on the Beat, Vic, the producer, Victor Javier Corona. How you doing, sir?
Doing good. Excited to be in Wild Card weekend. We got a lot of good matchups. Can't wait to break that down. But we're gonna get started with a couple of headlines here with all the coaching carousel going around. You got Bill Belichick and Patriots parting ways. You have Pete Carroll the Seahawks shockingly letting him go, and then or mutual. I guess he's staying with the team as a consultant, and so we have a lot to get into, Gilbert. So let's go ahead
Yeah.
and if you want to do some promos, or do you want to get right
Yeah,
into the
just
headlines?
Yeah, let people know. Don't be shy. If you're watching live here, drop a comment. And if you have a takeaway, a question, or I already see a comment from Pedro Ramirez. You're not related to Fernando Ramirez or Dan and Diego, Dan Ramirez. But shout out to you, Pedro La Ramirez, here on Compas on the Beat. No problem with that. But eventually we'll get a Manzano or even a Corona on the chat. But Pedro, shout out to you. And you're the first one to comment today. Don't be shy. You want to talk about the NFL playoffs? You want to talk about that coaching carousel that we're going to break down in a bit? You want to talk about sports betting? No more fantasy football unless you're into like postseason fantasy football. I don't play that. You might need to find a hobby if you're really into postseason fantasy playoffs. But nothing wrong with that. But yeah, give us your comments in the live chat. We're gonna answer everything here. Either me or Victor. We're gonna break it all down. But yeah, it is a unique time of year because I feel like the playoffs are kind of an afterthought right now. People are so focused on the coaching firings, the coaching vacancies. Even Nick Saban retired yesterday, so people are saying it's a memorable week because you got the legends stepping down. Pete Carroll, Bill Belichick, Nick Saban, and am I forgetting somebody? And then the shocker was Mike Vrabel too. So for a bit, Victor, it looked like it's going to be five, maybe six openings, and then it went from Black Monday to Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and it might be a couple more. I feel like maybe in the postseason, like if the Packers beat the Cowboys, like McCarthy might be on the hot seat. Uh, I know the
Nick
Buccaneers are.
Sirianni.
Yeah, Nick Sirianni could be one there. I'm not gonna go there just yet, but it could be because the Eagles are a wild card. And then I feel like the Buccaneers are up and down with Todd Bowles. So, or how about Sean McDermott? If you kind of like, crap the bed and the super wild card weekend, which I hate. It's a regular weekend, like two versus seven. The matchup there, it could be Sean McDermott. So, hey, let me know in the chat. You feel like it's gonna be two, maybe three more openings after the postseason. I'll say at least one for sure. But you know what? I just want to take time and talk about the coaching carousel. Well, actually, you know what? Before that, it is time to make your Super Bowl pick. So that's going to be the engagement question of the week. Week. Give us your Super Bowl LV. Is it I? Yeah, I was gonna say 111. LVII Super Bowl 57 prediction. As you know, Roman numerals.
58.
Yeah, nobody cares about Roman numerals after elementary. I feel like, but
Yeah.
if you're an expert, shout out to you. But Super Bowl 58 in Las Vegas. Give us your Super Bowl prediction right now. It's now or never. And I feel like a lot of people are going Ravens 49ers. Give me something good in the chat there, but don't be shy. Give us your Super Bowl pick. But before we get to the wild card preview, it was a unique week there. With now we have 8 openings in the NFL. Let me give you the list: Chargers, Raiders, Panthers, Titans. I can't even remember. Commanders, Falcons, Patriots, Seahawks, and a little bit. I'll try to give you my early predictions of where people might land. Like I'm still undecided about who goes where. Maybe Victor, you could help me out here, but
Yep.
uh, maybe we could start with this. You can help me. You can maybe guide me here what is the most notable thing that occurred to you regarding the coaching changes and the coaching vacancies?
For me, it was the fact that you saw Pete Carroll. I think um, we all expected Bill Belichick and the Bills to kind of part ways, and then Mike Vrabel, you kind of saw there was a kind of like a little war for power between the general manager and him. They wanted to, the general manager wanted to go and start the rebuild. Mike Brable did not. He wanted to, continue to go with his veterans, with Derrick Henry, with Ryan Tannehill, and then they brought in uh, DeAndre Hopkins. So there you had that power struggle there, Gilbert, with that. So I kind of expected that to go either way. They just brought in you remember last season when they fired the general manager, they fired him right after that game against AJ Brown because they just felt like that was a bad trade. So there that was kind of expected, but the Pete Carroll one, I thought, I told you guys, I said, hey, I think if anybody gets fired, it's the defensive coordinator, just because the defense has been bad. But I understand it now, kind of going back. I mean, the Seahawks defense has been bad for about 5 years now, and he's a defensive guy. You can have if you're a defensive guy, you can, have your team or your side of the ball be bad for 5 straight seasons. And we even talked about Matt Eberflus, about the fact that he should stay on because his defense, his calling card is defense. You should keep him. And they ended up doing what we talked about last week. They fired the offensive coordinator and they're going to keep Matt Eberflus. I mean, how do you fire a coach who's doing really good? But I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself there, Gilbert. But I just thought the Pete Carroll one was the most interesting one. What about you?
Yeah, when you bring up the Bears, it's like, man, like I know one game shouldn't matter, but they really had a really deflating performance. The Bears, that is, to lose to the Packers the way they did. It kind of is a reminder of like things haven't changed yet. And then I like Eberflus too, but then like when you see such a star-studded lineup of coaches available, like nobody really had a good idea that maybe Pete Carroll could be available or Mike Vrabel. There's a Jim Harbaugh. There's a Bill Belichick. Like, don't you want to go out there and test that market? Obviously, there's a Ben Johnson. There's a Frank Smith. There's a Raheem Morris, and they are making progress, but man, and I keep changing my mind, and maybe it's not the best for me as an NFL analyst, but when I watch CJ Stroud play and I look at him like that's a special quarterback. When you watch Justin Fields, like he's good sometimes, and then sometimes not so good. And I'm like, is that a good thing to do when you have Caleb Williams and Drake May? But the Bears are going to set it out. I don't hate it, but I feel like they might be missing out. But it is such a unique, off season here that, I like I mentioned the big names. We haven't even talked about Nick Saban. He's in the college football world. Hey, who knows if he wants to try the NFL again? Unfinished business. But imagine he jumps into the fray there. But the Mike Vrabel one makes me laugh because the owner there, she talked to the Tennessee Titans team reporter, and you should talk to the real media. Like, come on, like, it's not hide behind the team reporter, and he has some fair questions, but everybody was wondering, why don't you trade Mike Vrabel? This guy is going to be a hot commodity. Everybody's going to want to have an interview, and she just said, it's a long process and it's pretty dragged out and it takes a couple of weeks. We didn't want to do all that. Yeah, you don't want to just like at least pick up the phone and say, hey, New Orleans Saints, I know you want to keep Dennis Allen, but maybe you shouldn't. Give us a first round pick and take my Rabel. Or hey, New York Jets, I know you want Salah, but do you want to maybe be interested in Mike Rabel? Like, pick up the phone. Like, it's okay to work on the weekend or work at night. Like, it's not a problem, Tennessee, but there's a lot of when there's like insider stories about how the fallout occurred, that means the season didn't go great, and there's a lot of bad blood behind the scenes, and that's starting to happen with Mike Vrabel. And it's like a power struggle, and so there's a lot there to kind of unpack. And then with Pete Carey, kind of got pushed out a little bit. It felt like, but you can tell he wants to coach, and it's going to be tricky too. Like, who wants to take on the 70-year-olds and Pete Carroll and Bill Belichick. So that's going to be another wrinkle here too. And Delbert Salgado has a comment here. Rams Steelers is my take. Carroll to Chargers looks like a possibility. Interesting. Okay. Yeah, I'm guessing Deborah in the first part. We'll break down Rams and Steelers in a bit, unless I'm reading the comment wrong. But Carroll to the Chargers, people are actually connecting the dots there because obviously he coached at USC. He lives nearby the new facility in El Segundo, to be exact. But it could be a job where like maybe like I was telling Fernando, check out the video we did on What's Up Bo to Chargers season wrap up. And I'm like, if he has a succession plan, like the Patriots might, we'll break it down a bit, might have with Gerard Mayo, like maybe it's not a bad thing. Have Pete Carroll be a coach for a year or two, and then you bring in my guy Dave Canales from the Buccaneers OC, who worked for so many years in Seattle with Pete Carroll. Maybe it could be something there where you kind of, hey, you're a little young, you're in your 30s, but eventually you move on and you take the job. But uh, and Pedro, I see your comment there. He did not officially retire. Sorry, go ahead, Victor. He is available, and I say he is because I feel like he still wants to coach, but it's kind of like, hey, go over there and be an advisor and kind of figure out your role. But then again, Pete Carroll might like things. You know what? It's just kind of chill. I mean, I'm a very anti guy. I'm a positive dude, and I don't like this feeling of not really having much work. But maybe when it comes to a training camp rolls around and he doesn't have a lot on his plate and he's actually getting to enjoy time with his family and his loved ones that he's still part of the team. Maybe he might like this dynamic in Seattle, or maybe he's gonna hate it in a couple of weeks. And the Pete Carroll one is tricky because I feel like he needs like time away to really figure it out. And can you really wait for Pete Carroll to figure it out? So that's the tricky part there. Uh, but it's just so many, wild things that kind of break down here. Is 8 openings. It could be 9 or 10, and obviously the Chargers are really connected with Mike. Well, not Mike Vrabel, but it could be Mike Vrabel. But Jim Harbaugh's the one that's really a lot of noise there. But then you got the Raiders too trying to make a swing there. They could probably go for Vrabel or Harbaugh, but they also got Antonio Pierce there. So uh, anything else I'm leaving now before I kind of give you my early predictions of where coaches are going to end up, Victor, and then uh, it's not like a legit prediction. I just started dropping a bunch of names, and you can help me out. But
Yeah.
anything else that maybe I haven't covered? I know the Commanders sound like they're very close. Well, I saw the report. The Commanders are not even in Bill Belichick. It's starting to feel like Lamar Jackson vibes again. People are saying we don't even want that guy, but maybe you could go there if you want. It's kind of weird they don't want to even talk to him.
Let's the only thing I was gonna just mention too, I know that the times were kind of mad about the whole thing with Mike Brable when he went to during the middle of the season. He went and had a speech with with the New England Patriots. He was upset about some of the comments he made during
Yeah.
that as well. So I mean, you can see the writing on the wall. But outside of that, Gilbert, let's go ahead and start off. Which team do you want to start off, and with the pairings in terms of the availability for where you think
You
these
know,
coaches are going to end up, and for each of these teams.
just for the sake of time, let me give it to you in two parts. I'll give you the first four and then another four, and that way
Okay.
we move it along here. But
Okay.
again, it's not gonna be because it's a rough draft prediction. I might have multiple names for a certain team, but I'll start out with the Chargers. If you're watching from What's Up Boat, shout out to you. If you're watching from House of Horns, you're getting ready for a playoff game, and stick around in a bit for Rams versus Lions, and check out the video that we did on House of Horns for a full preview of Rams versus Lions, and same thing with the Kirk Morrison video that is doing pretty well. So we like to see that. But for the Chargers, I penciled in Jim Harbaugh or Mike Vrabel. For the Raiders, I penciled in Antonio Pierce or Jim Harbaugh. Panthers, I just penciled in Ben Johnson. It feels like Tepper's going to throw a bunch of money. You can't say no to Ben Johnson. And the fourth one on this first part, the Titans, Frank Smith. I think he's a good offensive mind, a very respected coach, a very likable coach. Got his first break with Sean Payton with the New Orleans Saints. He worked with John Gruden with the Raiders. He's the one that pretty much had the breakout year for Darren Waller. He's also the one that developed Rashawn Slater. So I want to see Frank Smith get a chance, and I think Tennessee is ready for an offensive coach after so many years with Vrabel on the defensive side. But one more time, Chargers either Vrabel or Harbaugh, Raiders Pierce or Harbaugh, Panthers Ben Johnson, Titans Frank Smith. What do you think?
Uh, I'm gonna I'm gonna start with Frank Smith. I really like that one. I like the Frank Smith going to Tennessee. You have a Tajay Spears. I mean, I'm already thinking about fantasy if this
Yeah.
happens, because he's gonna be. If I start looking at Tajay Spears for next season. But he's learned as you already laid out who he's learned under, but you also add, you know, Mike McDaniel
Yeah.
now as well, and the way they've been able to, run that offense. I really like what he can do in Tennessee, especially if you have a GM who's trying to rebuild. I think Frank Smith, as you just said, he's really good at developing talent. So I really like that one. You press the reset with him, kind of like what we saw with the Dolphins and Mike McDaniel. You can see the same thing here with Frank Smith. So I really like that one. Uh, Panthers and Ben Johnson. Where I would like to see Ben Johnson go is Seattle. I mean, Seattle is already set up for him
Yeah.
to be able to. With the Panthers, I think it's gonna have to be like super young guy. I would say like someone like Shane Waldron, who's looking for that first. You know, for he's looking for a young guy. I just don't see a established guy, kind of like Ben Johnson or even a Mike McDonald going there. Like you said, I get that he's going to get a bunch of money, but at the same time, these coaches talk to each other, and it's going to be like a young guy who's looking for his first real job. And I think for me, I like Shane Waldron there in Carolina. The Raiders, I'm with you. I don't know which way which way Mark Davis is gonna lean. As you've laid out, and even having Kirk Morrison, everybody seems to be pointing towards Antonio Pierce. But if Harbaugh does decide, it's starting to sound like he would lean more towards the Raiders, just because he has a really good relationship with Mark Davis. Like, that's one thing I haven't heard anybody talk about, is
Yeah.
Mark Davis has a really good relationship with Jim Harbaugh. Remember, he was an assistant quarterbacks coach for the Raiders in the early 2000s. So there's also the connection there. I know everybody, just because he said something nice about Justin Herbert, and everything's there. But as you guys have also laid out, is John Spano going to give up, power to Harbaugh? We don't know that. And so for me, if I think for the Raiders, is between those two guys. And then with the Chargers, until they show me that they can actually go and pay for somebody, I'm gonna go with the cheaper guy. So I would say, if there's, there a guy like the OC of the Texans would be a great option
Bobby
for.
Slowick.
But yeah, that's who I would look for the Chargers. And then yeah, so that would take care of those four. So, and let me ask you something. Why Mike Brable to the Chargers? Is there like a connection there, or is it just, have you heard anything?
Well, I know that they want to do a setup. They want to set up an interview with Mike Vrabel, so there's something there. And I do believe the Chargers, when they say they want somebody with experience. I think they've done the first time around. That's why I don't really pay attention too much to the first time around. But you're right. It could be a bidding war for Harbaugh. Definitely, it could be a bidding war for Vrabel. It could be a bidding war for Bill Belichick, and who knows? Maybe Pete Carroll. Maybe Pete Carroll could be the one, because like, he's an older guy, and I don't think he's gonna have a lot of opportunities, and he wants to maybe live in California. Maybe they make a deal where it's nice and easy. But yeah, you're like that's why we should probably even do like a power rankings of the top coaches available. Like, who's gonna be the one sought after? Is it gonna be Brable? Is it gonna be Harbaugh, Belichick? Like, there's just so much star power. Like, you better have a deep pockets. You better have a nice check there to hand somebody if you get in a bidding war. So. Uh, yeah, so like, what if they get? And that's a good thing about the Chargers. They have three or four people who have experience, and they have big names. They're like, hey, if you lose the first two bidding wars, you got the third option too. So, uh, yeah, I won't even like. I really feel like it's gonna be one of those, like a Bill Belichick or what's Pete Carroll maybe. Pete Carroll, the more I think about it, the more I'm starting to like it. But especially if there's like succession plan. But if it's not, it could be like maybe a Dan Quinn. It could be a Raheem Morris. I know they're talking to a Leslie Frazier. They're talking to Steve Wilkes. These are all former coaches, so they could definitely go a cheap route. But I think if they do, it would be an experienced coach. So, but I don't know. There's too much. There's a lot of pressure on them to deliver, and I think it's gonna be one of those four names I keep alluding to. But if like they're not gonna change their ways, I do not see Bill Belichick, seeing hanging out with the Spanos family and they're cutting corners. So, That's why I didn't put him in my top two. And Delbert, yeah, I don't know with Raheem that's a problem with having so many very talented candidates and big names, but it's good that there's more openings. Like if like now that that's like eight, I was getting word for Raheem Morris when it was five or six. I'm like, it might not be his year, but now with eight and maybe possibly 10, I could definitely see him getting a chance again. He was a runner up for the indie job last year, and he lost it to Shane Steichen. And I hate this also too how people always focus on offensive background. So now it's like you got to have a big name, you got to have an offensive background. So that's kind of the terrible part for Raheem Morris. But yeah, so we'll see. It's gonna be a bidding war, especially for Jim Harbaugh, Mike Vrabel. I think those might be the top two guys. I think because people are gonna be ages. I feel like with Bill Belichick and Pete Carroll, so it might be three and four after that. But let me give you my second part here, and it does involve Raheem Morris going somewhere. But for my next four, the Commanders, I think Mike McDonald's a heavy favorite. But then you hear Mike Vrabel like, oh, you got to pick up the phone at least. I think one of those two could be an option there. Obviously, they are not interested in Bill Belichick, apparently. Maybe a Harbaugh could be a sneaky play, but I think Harbaugh really wants to be on the West Coast. That's why I always go to either Seahawks, Chargers, or Raiders. But just to give you two names on the Commanders, Mike McDonald, Mike Vrabel. Mike McDonald, because I feel like the Commanders' new owner, Josh Harris, he really likes the structure that the Ravens have. So maybe you kind of bring somebody with a Ravens background and kind of copy that way there. And then with the Falcons, Bill Belichick is a favorite there for some reason. I don't know if I see it. So I'm going to give you one more name, and I think Raheem Morris could be the guy there because he was an interim head coach, and maybe Arthur Blank's like, yeah, I messed up. Raheem Morris is well liked in the organization. Obviously, it's hard to win when you're an interim head coach, but I think he did a lot of good things there. He might get the job there if they whiff on the big name. And then Patriots, Gerard Mayo. I'm starting to believe that. It's a lot of reports like, hey, they already checked off all the boxes. They've been talking to the NFL. This is their plan. They kept trying to keep them saying, hey, don't go talk to anybody else. We'll give you more money. I'm starting to believe the Gerard Mayo thing, but Mike Bravo is going to be my just in case background option there. And then Seahawks, it's going to be people are always pointing the finger at Dan Quinn, but don't count out Dave Canales, the OC for the Buccaneers, because he was a Pete Carroll for so many years. He was a quarterbacks coach. He's the one that really helped out Geno Smith break out. And then he got that he probably the opportunity from quarterbacks coach with Geno to be in a first time play caller with Tampa Bay. And we've seen what Baker Mayfield has done. So I think there could be something there with Dave Canales, or maybe him and Dan Quinn get together and go back to Seattle. But I think I talked a lot there, but hopefully you remember my four, 6 names there.
Yeah, I like the Commanders one with Mike McDonald or Mike Brable. That makes a lot of sense. They have a big pocket book there where they can just go and pay those Mike Brable. Like I can see that. I like Brable to the Commanders. For a long time I thought the easy choice was Mike Brable to the Patriots, but I do like what you're saying in terms of Gerard Mayo. He's been there for a while. It seems like he was a predecessor for a long time. It was Josh McDaniels. Now is Gerard Mayo. It would seem kind of, you're going to hold on to him for all these years and not give him the job. Just doesn't seem like, why would you go through all that? The Falcons and Bill Belichick, I've, I, I'm with, I've been hearing the same thing that you've been hearing. In terms of Arthur Blank, he's really wanting to take a big swing for a big name guy. So another guy to kind of keep in mind here too is Pete Carroll. That's another person. I don't know anything, but that's a name just to keep in mind there, just because he would be ready to go. Just his personality just fits with the Falcons. I think he would be great. And I told you, I think they should keep their defensive coordinator there. I really like what he's done. He's brought a lot of the elements from the Saints over, and the Falcons have been really good. And then I gave you, I know you, the Seahawks. I like Dave Canales or Dan Quinn. Dan Quinn seems like the favorite there, just because of what he coached there. But I'm just surprised that Shane Waldron isn't getting any consideration for it. Um, he was the one that was the offensive coordinator. For the past few years there as well. He's from he's also from the Sean McVay tree. So,
Yeah.
and he's also in line to he's interviewing with the Bears for the offensive coordinator position as well. So I don't understand why Shane Waldron isn't being looked at by the Seahawks, but
I think it's, Vic, because, they're getting their ass kicked every single year by the 49ers and the Rams, so they're like, "We want something new here, we can't figure it out," and
right.
I think that's why they force Pete Carroll out. It's like, "Dude, we need a young mind to compete with Kyle Shanahan and Sean McVay," and, like, they're like, "Well, we already had Shane Waldron here, and we got swept by the 49ers and the Rams the last few years," so
Yeah, no,
I
and
think
that
that's
makes
part of
total
it.
yeah, no, that makes total sense. I mean, I mean, when you're getting beat by those two guys, I understand. That's why, like, someone like either a defensive guy who's bringing in new for like a new like a Mike McDonald would be great. Like that would be someone
Yeah.
to kind of
They got a lot
consider
of
there
talent
if that's the way
defensively.
you want to go. But instead of an offensive guy, like even a Raheem Morris, like but we'll see what happens there. But that takes care of everybody. Is there like a wild card, Gilbert? Like, is there somebody like the Cowboys, like we talked about, or the Eagles get rid of somebody? Do you see like I know Fernando said keep an eye on Belichick to the Cowboys if Mike McCarthy
Yeah.
gets fired?
Yeah, I definitely could see that. Like if you're the number 2 seed and it's all set up for you to like if he doesn't go to at least the NFC title game, I think he gets fired. Because they've done the division round thing. They've done this song and dance many years with Dak Prescott. You have to pay Dak too. Like it might be the year you make changes to finally get over that hurdle. So when the Eagles chucked away a division, it's all set up for them to win 2 playoff games. And if you make it to NFC title game and you get steamrolled by the 49ers, that might be okay for Jerry Jones because you finally left the division around. But let's answer this one question, then we'll move on to the preview here for the playoffs. But yeah, Delbert, it's very intriguing. He says your opinion on Saban trying the NFL again. Yeah, it's kind of like a random retirement. After people were very shocked by it. And I don't know how his contract is structured. Like if he tries to go over to the NFL, will Alabama be pretty annoyed and block it? I don't know how that works, but you would think maybe some unfinished business there, and I think Fernando brought it up. It's like the college football landscape is changing, and maybe he's tired of all the NIL and the transfer portal, things like that, and maybe he wants to go back to the NFL like Jim Harbaugh, unfinished business, and obviously Harbaugh got a lot more further than Nick Saban. He really struggled in Miami, but then again, when you win so much in college football, walk out a legend from that sport and go retire. But yeah, I don't. Seeing some of these coaches being in their 60s and 70s and still wanting to coach, I don't know how they do it. Like I'm more like Sean McVay. Like he's the one. He was burned out at 30, 36, 37. I'm like I don't blame Sean McVay, but these coaches are already trying to retire at 60, 70. So that's a long time coaching. Seeing some of these pictures of Nick Saban and Bill Belichick with the Browns is like it really takes you back. Even though I wasn't alive or I guess I was. It was like early 90s, but uh, it's a long time ago, and these coaches have been coaching for a long time. But I don't
Yeah,
know. It wouldn't shock me though.
I saw a story the other day where Pete Carroll went somewhere to be a defensive coordinator and Nick Saban replaced him like at Ohio State or
Yeah,
some like it was weird like all these guys are connected somehow like Pete Carroll, Nick Saban and Bill Belichick like you said they were on the same coaching staff in the Browns but like even before that like in the late 70s early 80s all these guys were connected somehow but that tells you how long they've been in coaching and we're
yeah.
talking about before we were both born. That's they've been coaching a long time.
Yeah, so if they retire, we're gonna miss them. If not, then we'll see what they do on the next chapter. But let's start breaking down some of these wild card games. Vic, let's go in order with the schedule.
Yep.
First one, the game that if you're in the first game on the Saturday slate at 1:30 p.m. Pacific, that means the NFL expects low ratings from you. It's kind of like what
It's
is it?
the NFC South Bowl. Like
Yeah,
I mean
yeah,
the AFC South.
it's either going to be an NFC South team or AFC South, but it's usually an AFC South team. So, but I'm actually very intrigued about this matchup: Browns at Texans. C.J. Stroud, Joe Flacco, Miles Garrett. You got the D'Amico Ryan's. Actually, it could be the winner of this game could win Coach of the Year. I know Coach of the Year voting already ended. It's a regular season award, but Kevin Stefanski and D'Amico Ryan's a nice little matchup there, and you know like everything tells me that the Browns are probably going to win handily. They have the better team on paper. They have a very dominant defense. They're getting healthy. They have like what almost 2 weeks rest because the last time they really played was a Thursday night football game where they beat down the Jets. They rested all their starters for that Bengals game, which is good for Flacco. It's good for everybody who is dealing with injuries. But they do have to go on the road. They have to go to Houston, and they have to face you know I want to say, maybe a top three quarterback in the AFC right now, or maybe top four because you got Mahomes, Allen, and Jackson. But they have the quarterback advantage of CJ Stroud. Stroud's a special cat. What he did against the Colts, especially that go ahead drive at that age, and it wasn't a playoff game, but it felt like it. It was a win in your end game, and to lead his team like that without no Tank Dell, without Robert Woods, without Noah Brown, and they also had injuries on the defensive side. No Jonathan Grenard, Will Anderson Jr. is dealing with an injury, so he really carried them on their back. And same thing with Nico Collins. That's a very lethal connection. But you know, the Browns are -2 favorites or they're road favorites. But to me, I've been backing the Texans all year. They've been good to me, so why go away now? I'll take a home underdog right here. I got no problem with that. So I'll take the Texans for the upset, and I'm expecting some magic from CJ Stroud. But everything else I laid out before that does really concern me.
Let me give you some things to kind of think about, Gilbert. So, one of the things that we've seen from the Browns since Joe Flacco has taken over is he's averaging at least 2 interceptions a game. So that's kind of something to think about. And as you said in their matchup earlier matchup, there was no CJ Stroud, there was no Bernard, there was and Flacco has never lost in the wild card round. If he's able to pull off this win, he now takes over the record for most playoff wins. He's tied with Tom Brady at the moment. So there's also that. One of the things that the Browns do really well is they're the number one team in terms of play action. Guess what the Texans are bad at? They're bad at covering teams with play action. They're the last in that. So there's also that. But one more thing to kind of keep in mind here, and I'm going to go over to the Browns defense. They haven't been the same since the Miles Garrett injury against the Broncos. Since then, Gilbert, they only Miles Garrett only has 1 sack. The Browns were the number one defense at that point. They from that point on they were the 14th ranked defense. This defense hasn't been the same. Now they're getting healthy at the right time. They're getting a bunch of players back, but I just that the thing with that Browns defense, like you saw in that game with the Jets, the quarterback was going up and down. Yeah, he threw the ball and had a couple of interceptions there, but I'm with you here. I like the Texans. I just wanted to give you some things to kind of think about, uh, just because why this matchup is really good. But I'm with you. I like the Texans in this game to cover. And I like them to win in this game. I know a lot of people are picking the Browns, but I just think that CJ Stroud I think he's gonna have a good game, and they're also healthy. Like their defense is getting better, and I can see D'Amico Ryan's throwing some wrinkles at Joe Flacco, especially after seeing him.
Yeah, the other thing too, to help us with this prediction, like the Browns defense doesn't really do well on the road. Like they got lit up by the Colts, they got lit up by the Ravens, they got lit up. I'm trying
By
to
the
blank.
Rams,
The
by
Rams, that's
the
the one.
yeah,
And they didn't really get lit up, but they lost to the Seahawks in Seattle. So
and they
uh,
lost to the Broncos, if I'm not
yeah,
mistaken,
that
right?
was really ugly too. So that West Coast trip for them was pretty bad. But some of these games were without Joe Flacco. Like that's the thing too. Like I think the defense realized that like, okay, we don't have to be special anymore because freaking Flacco is making it work offensively. So that's kind of makes them a very dangerous team. And but also like if Flacco's gonna keep doing this all year, like is he gonna
Exactly.
are we expecting him to keep doing this? And you know, and Joko's been great. Like he finally
Yeah.
figured out how to reach his ceiling because he's been so dominant in flashes, but then he's never had a string like this good. So But after that, they're like, if Amari Cooper is still dealing with injuries, like they don't have a lot of depth at wide receiver. Like Elijah Moore's been okay, and that's about it. I feel like so. They are very dangerous, and then they do have a decent running back in Jerome Ford. Kareem Hunt could contribute, so they do have some injuries in the offensive line. Maybe that the rest could help them out there, but hey, sometimes in these playoffs that you got to back the special quarterback, and he is a rookie. But we're both gonna take a chance here, and no problem. But I and then real quick, I think the total here is 44.5 for those people interested uh, in that aspect there. So I think we're gonna do our best bets later on, so I won't give
Yeah.
that one away.
Yep.
But yeah, I'll take money line on the Texans, and yeah, I'm ready to move on to the next one
Yeah,
of the
before we
weekend.
move on, let me just give me a quick answer here. Do you think this would be a different storyline if it wasn't Flacco and it was Deshaun Watson? Like I feel like we're kind of scheming over it, and I
Yeah,
I mean every and like I get the Joe Flacco thing just because he's an older quarterback, but he also had some problems there where he wasn't well liked in some of his stops, and so I'm
yeah,
happy for Brown fans, and I'm happy that it's not this Sean Watson because I
yeah.
think we'd be talking about a whole completely different, storyline here,
Yeah.
Gilbert.
Yeah, and I think that's what makes this better. Like, we don't have to get into it, but everything with Deshaun Watson wasn't a good look for the franchise. A lot of, Browns fans got turned off, and that's why I think people are getting behind the team now. It's Joe Flacco. It's without him. So you're gonna have to make some decisions at the end of the year, and it's gonna be tough for them to even think about getting on that contract. They can't really do it. They could always make him a number two and force his way out. But yeah, I'm glad he's not part of the storyline, and for obvious reasons. But yeah, it wouldn't even been about like, hey, Watson coming home and seeing the young guy who took his job. It's about other stuff,
Yeah.
and we need to get into it. So I'm glad that it was Joe Flacco.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I thought we should kind of at least talk about it just because I mean next season is going to be it'll be interesting, but we'll get there. When the season starts for during the off season, I guess. All right, Gilbert, Dolphins at Chiefs.
Yeah, let me check the line real quick
Let me
here.
give you one stat real quick. The Dolphins have lost their last 10 games when the weather has is under 40 degrees.
I'm not surprised. If there's one team that have very little faith when it comes to playing a road game in cold conditions and maybe in the snow and below -5 degrees, a wild wind chill, this is the one I have the least faith in, the Miami Dolphins. And
All right. Well, let me ask you this, just so because we're both gonna pick here the Chiefs, but what can the Dolphins do to win this game then?
maybe just have everybody healthy. And they're a team, like that's the other thing too. Like obviously the weather's a factor, but they're the one team that doesn't really know how to adjust with injuries because they don't know how to adjust their play style. They don't know how to adjust an in-game style. And that's a knock on Mike McDonald. And maybe that's like the bad thing that he learned from Kyle Shanahan. You better play with the lead. Pedro says that cold's gonna ruin the Dolphins. Yeah. Even if it wasn't cold, I would still take the Chiefs. And you know, this Dolphins team, the one thing they did right was they score a lot of points early on, and that's in people's mind. They're like, oh, they're explosive, they're a high scoring team. Are they really? Like anytime they
Nope.
play somebody with a good defense, they
Yeah.
don't really do anything. Like, maybe they do it in the first quarter or second quarter. Like, oh, look at A-Chan getting a 40-yard gain. And then what happened in the fourth quarter? Like they played physical teams before the Eagles fell apart. They couldn't score points on the Eagles. They couldn't score points on the Chiefs in Germany. They got destroyed by the Baltimore Ravens. So, they got embarrassed by the Tennessee Titans, a physical team too, with Mike Vrabel, by the way. They did beat the Cowboys. That was like their one victory, and I wanted to believe in them that game because I like what I saw from the defense. And they were overcoming the Jalen Phillips injury, but then you lost Bradley Chubb, and then Andrew Van Ginkel got hurt. So the replacements are getting hurt at edge rusher. So how are you going to put pressure on Patrick Mahomes? So you don't have depth. You don't have a play style that's able to adjust to just a game script. You can't even adjust to the weather. So I don't know. Football's been weird this year where we expect things to be obvious and then they rarely are not. But I don't see anything in this Miami's Dolphins team to tell me otherwise. And even the two, I didn't even mention Tua. Tua's had opportunities to put this team on his back, and he hasn't done it. And I had high expectations for him. after that week 1 game against the Chargers, and he lit them up. And then we saw the Chargers defense was pretty bad. So it wasn't a Tua thing. So uh, Tua had an opportunity to win that game against the Buffalo Bills there, and he threw an interception. And I keep going back to the Miami Dolphins point of view from that game. Like, it must be so mentally deflating to know that Josh Allen had 3 terrible turnovers. You're playing at home, and you need a victory to win the division, and you still couldn't do it. Like, that wasn't even nowhere near the best of the Bills, and you still lost that game. And then I know I see Waddle and Mostert trying to give it a chance to play, and maybe if they have healthy people, they could maybe steal one here, because the Chiefs, they have a knack of dropping balls. They are out of sync offensively, but even putting that aside, they have a very good defense, and they definitely could shut down the Miami Dolphins. So to me, it's probably my easiest game of the week, and I think for you too. But I'll definitely take the Chiefs and -4.5.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. The only thing I'll say, Gilbert, and we talked about this, when we were previewing that Bills Dolphins game, I think it comes down to Big Fangio, and you know, I want to see what he can do. Where does he line up Ramsey? Does he put him, to cover Kelsey, or does he do it against Rice? I mean, there's a lot of things that he can do. I get it. A lot of the guys got hurt, but there's a reason why he's the mastermind behind that defense. Now go out there and show it. We already know, as you broke down what to expect from Mike McDaniel. We get what he runs, and we make excuses. I feel like at least people around the league do for him, and that's okay. We know what to expect now. We know that we shouldn't, you know, we shouldn't think that this Dolphins offense is going to get in any better. It's not explosive, as you mentioned. We know that now. But I think if you have any chance of beating the Chiefs here, it has to start with Big Fangio. I think if they win this game, we saw him pressure Josh Allen. He got him to turn the ball over. It honestly, the reason they lost that game wasn't because of Big Fangio. They lost it because Mike McDaniel couldn't, take advantage of those situations where they got the ball back. So for me, is Big Fangio. If you can see, we saw what the Raiders did to the Chiefs on Christmas Day. They got them to turn the ball over. They scored 14 points. Their offense was only able to score 6 points, and they still beat the Chiefs. So I think that's where it starts for me, is what can you cook up if you're a Big Fangio, because I can't rely on getting anything from Tua and Mike McDaniel in this game, Gilbert.
Yeah, yeah, this could be the last thing I could say out here. But the Mike McDaniel, like, I don't want to knock him for trying something new and to experiment, but like the 49ers, they are maybe somewhat of a finesse team, but they have physical people. Like, they got Trent Williams, they got George Kittle. Like, everything about the Dolphins is more like speed, 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 and smaller dudes. I'm like, why are you taking that to the extreme, the speed side? And maybe he wants to try something new, and you want to be ahead of the curve, and nothing wrong with that, but it's gonna be 2 years now of that not working. Like, will he go back to will he go find the tight end? Like, like he did not like Mike Gesicki a year ago, and he went out with the Patriots. He never replaced the tight end. He won't use that for some reason. It's okay to get 5 yards here or 6 or 7 yards, not to go boom or bust here. Uh, Maybe find a quality number three wide receiver, maybe a physical wide receiver we could kind of give lobs to for contested passes, not in stride deep bombs and speed with Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill. Like, he's gonna have to really adjust, because this small football speed thing just doesn't work against the physical teams. It doesn't work in the cold elements. It doesn't hurt when guys get, no pun, guys get hurt easy because they're smaller. So things like that. He's like, he tried something, and it's kind of like, with the Chargers, they tried doing the basketball thing with big dudes. It bit him. It hasn't really worked. And he tried doing the track speed, and it hasn't worked. So, nothing wrong with trying new things, but you gotta figure out this game is physical. You need big dudes. You need to have maulers. You need to have uh, guys in the trenches who don't mind pushing a couple people now and then. So they were starting to get that on defensively with Jalen Ramsey and, like you mentioned, Vic Fangio, but they're just decimated with injuries. That that could have been their one thing to help them out here, but they don't even have that. But yeah, I don't know with Mike McDaniel. We'll see what he does, and we'll see if Frank Smith leads them to what do you do to kind of evolve. But what's the next one, Vic?
We got Steelers at Bills. I think the line is plus. It's -10 for the
Yeah,
Bills.
yeah. It says I kind of you're gonna give her a bet later, but I kind of stayed away from this one, but because I just don't know what to expect with the Bills. I just expect the Bills to either blow out the Steelers or just keep it close because they've been doing that since they went on. Like even when they got this 5 game winning streak, who had they really blown out? They got lucky with the Chiefs. They barely beat the Chargers. They barely
They
beat the
blew out the
Patriots.
Cowboys.
Yeah, it's actually just a one one team, so it's not a good thing for the Cowboys. So they blew out the Cowboys, but you know I will take the Steelers plus 10, but I will take the Bills to win this game like in an ugly fashion. And also too, like, it's gonna be I think that one's expected to have snow, pretty cold too, high winds, very chilly. But I do like what I saw from James Cook after Joe Brady took over. I think they could lean on James Cook. He could probably help him out. It might be better too, Vic, because I think Josh Allen is still struggling with this idea of being a game manager and handing the ball off. Like, no, I want to be the hero. I want to use my arm
Yep.
strength. Well, good luck trying to use your arm strength when it's like 30 miles per hour is a wind there. So be smart about it. If he tries to play hero ball, it might backfire, and that's why I think we're both going to take the plus 10 here. But on the other side, Mason Rudolph, they kind of struggled last week, but it's a Baltimore game in the rain, a bunch of fumbles. I did I do like that George Pickens and Najee Harris have suddenly woken up because they have competent quarterback play for Mason Rudolph. They have a new play caller, so they could be in the fight here, but no TJ Watt, and then the difference in quarterback could really hurt the Steelers here.
Yeah, in terms of the Steelers, ever since they fired Matt Canada, they've gone to a more heavy set offense. They're using three tight ends. They're running the ball a lot more with Najee Harris. They went from being a zone team to, power running game. And Najee Harris has really stepped up in that because of that. And they finally catered the offense to him. And look, he's looked better. Mason Rudolph is Mason Rudolph. You know what you're getting. He didn't look great against the Ravens, last week. I think for me, this, no TJ Watt, that I think they're 1-9 Gilbert without him in his career.
Wow.
So I mean, the odds are against them, but I do like if they can run the ball, and that's the difference between the Dolphins and the Steelers, and why I think the Steelers can keep this close is because they know what they are, Gilbert. They're gonna play you physical on defense, and they're gonna run the ball on you. And Mike Tomlin has gotten back to running the ball with Jalen Warren and with Najee Harris, and I think this is gonna be a big old school football game where you're gonna see two teams that are gonna run the ball and they're gonna be physical on defense. On the other side too, Gilbert. I mean, we haven't mentioned this, but credit to Sean McDermott. After he lost guys, this team still ended up as a top five defense, statistically. So he's been able to change things around. I mean, he's throwing things out there that people haven't seen in a while. So he adjusted. That's been great. That just tells you what kind of a coordinator he is, that he's been able to make changes and it's worked out, I think. And then the other thing I kind of wanted to talk about in terms of the Bills offense is look out for Fournette. Like if you can find a prop bet for anytime touchdown for Fournette, I would take it here. I know we're talking a little
Yeah, and that's
betting
fine.
here, but yeah, like because I think Fournette's probably going to get elevated, and as you said, it's probably going to snow, and they'll probably use them, and they'll use him down in the goal line. So yeah, I'm with you. I like the Bills here as well.
Yeah, no, sorry, this microphone went off on me. Good thing the cats are about to eat right now, so they're gonna leave me alone with my microphone. They like to like run up the desk and mess with my mics. But is it
Oh, there you go.
thick on the your end?
Yep.
Okay.
We're good here. All right, let's move on to you're going with the Bills as well, right?
Yeah, I'll take the Bills and just a little off of your point. Like I do like that they're physical again with their ground game, but also they're not predictable. I think I like their shots that they're taking with George Pickens and Deontay Johnson. So they could be a surprise team here, but I think the talent and the quarterback differences could definitely go to the Bills. But what's the next one? It's also weird that we're having three AFC games first before an NFC playoff game.
Right, and that's the next one. It's Packers at Cowboys. you know.
Yeah, that's a very intriguing game, and it's one that I really wanted to go with the upset, but I couldn't do it. And then I saw the line change. So I think people were pounding the Packers +10. Now it's all the way down to +7, unless I was looking at some other crappy sports book. But everything I'm seeing now, it's +7. That makes it a little more difficult to bet on the Packers against the spread, uh, or with the spread there. So, but the reason why I thought about the Packers maybe having an upset is like I like what Jordan Love has been doing. You know, I was praising Jordan Love before the season. I think I mentioned that I like what I saw from him. I even went and made a bold prediction, and I had the Packers winning the NFC North. It did not work out that way. They made the playoffs, so he made me look good. And there were some rocky moments. He had to kind of learn. You know, he's kind of like Josh Allen. He has a talented skill set. He has arm strength, but he was forcing a lot of football, especially when injuries occurred with no Aaron Jones, no Christian Watson, and things were kind of going sideways. He relied on his skill set, and he got in trouble that way. I think, uh, Matt LaFleur did a good job of saying, "Hey, tone it down. Just keep trusting the system." And those are things he couldn't do with Aaron Rodgers because Aaron Rodgers was just doing his own thing out there with the audibles and changing things at the line of scrimmage. So I think Jordan loves trusting the process. And then when everybody returned to health there, they also lost Bakhtiari, the left tackle. They lost a bunch of people. So it was a process there. And then credit to Jordan Love for kind of showing some leadership. He's already in year 4, so that shouldn't be surprising. But to take the rookies like Jaden Reed, Dontavius Wicks, getting the tight ends Tucker Kraft, Luke Musgrave, uh, get on the same page with Romeo Dobbs and Christian Watson whenever he plays. He might be their best wide receiver, but he never plays. So he might be healthy for this one, but he is just loaded with pass catchers. I think Aaron Jones is healthy and AJ Dillon. You got Matt LaFleur calling the plays. The defense is a problem with Joe Barry, but that defense actually finally stepped up in Chicago last week, or in Green Bay against Chicago. They stifled Justin Fields there, but they're still young. Pedro, yeah, to my point, I got the Cowboys too. I'll take the Packers +7. I think it's gonna be a close game. Uh, but yeah, it wouldn't be surprising if Green Bay wins because of everything I laid out. They're very talented, and then the Cowboys just have a way of getting in their way. And you got another revenge factor, Mike McCarthy against the Packers there. So, but the Cowboys are good at home. They've won 16 games in a row. They have CeeDee Lamb was freaking good, and then Dak Prescott really balled out in the regular season. But we've seen that before, right? So we need more from him in the postseason. I am worried about the running game. For Tony Pollard never took off in this new lead role. They needed a physical running back. They lost that with Zeke, so that's something they got to adjust to. And hopefully Tyler Smith is healthy. He got hurt at the week 18, so they have a good offensive line and a good defense too. But I think that defense is going to be very tested against Matt LaFleur play calling.
Yeah, I'm with you. I like everything that you laid out in terms of what the Packers bring to the table here. Matt LaFleur has been, he was up and down when we did their matchup with the Rams. We talked about it. He was starting to feel some heat there, but I think finding Jordan Love, and developing him, that he gets a lot of credit for that. And then you laid out all the receivers; they've done a great job. Where I'm gonna give you one thing here that has to do with the Cowboys and the Packers, as you talked about Joe Barry and how bad he's been in terms of him being the defensive coordinator. One of the things they struggle is covering the middle of the field. The Cowboys and Dak Prescott love, you know, and I think this is gonna be a big CD Lamb game. If you can find a good prop bet for CD Lamb, I hit the over. They're gonna hit the middle of this field, Gilbert, with slants. They're gonna just slant the heck out of that Packers defense. And so I this is a big game for CD Lamb and Dak Prescott. This and Joe Barry, we've talked about it. I've had we talked about Vic Fangio. The Vic Fangio defense works with him, and that's about it, Gilbert. I still haven't seen any other defensive coordinator be able to run his defense and do well. Um, Outside of the other thing too, Aaron Jones, since he's been back and healthy, he leads the NFL in rushing.
Oh,
So I would run him here. Like if I'm the Packers, I
Yeah.
use him to, I featured him, and I think that's where if you want a shot at beating the Cowboys, I think you have to feature Aaron Jones, and I like what I've seen from Aaron Jones since he's been healthy. But yeah, I like the Cowboys here. Like I said, I just think it's going to be a big CD Lamb game.
Yeah, the Cowboys have really struggled against the run. They did have some injuries, but maybe they're healthy. But that's a good point there. And a quick note, like I find it surprising that the Cowboys didn't lock up CeeDee Lamb in the offseason. They don't, and same thing with the Vikings and Justin Jefferson. Those two guys are going to get paid a lot of money this offseason. Two of the best wide receivers. But what's next on the schedule?
We got Rams at Lions,
Ooh.
Sunday night game, game week previewed. Go ahead, Gilbert.
Vic, I'm gonna call you out because I think you're still stuck at the 3.5 line. That thing changed. People are now it's 3 because people really like the Rams here, and we broke it all down on House of Horns. Check out the full preview there, but we'll give you some quick notes here, and it's going to be a fun match. It's going to be very intriguing, and a lot of people are taking the not the Lions, but Alonso is, but they're taking the Rams here. But welcome Alonso. He's taking the Lions here, or pick the Lions. Telling me to pick the Lions. I'm gonna take the Rams, but it's not an easy bet here, and I'll lay it out right here, Alonso. The Sam Laporta injury really scared me there. I wanted to I don't want to be a follower and everybody's picking the Rams. I hate that everybody's taking the Rams. So I wanted to kind of go with the home team there. But the Sam Laporta injury, it just takes away from their playbook, and I don't want to make it all about Sam Laporta because they do have a lot of talented players: Jameson Williams, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jameer Gibbs, David Montgomery. But Laporta was such a difference maker there. So, but also too, we talked about it, Victor. Like the Rams they're very identical to the Lions. Yeah, they came on late, so the record is not the same. But Kyron Williams, a good running back. They don't have two, but they have one really good running back who, maybe you could debate about it, but would you rather have Kyron Williams or Jameer Gibbs right now? Kyron Williams was a pure runner. He might be the best from the three, even David Montgomery. I like Gibbs for the all around game, but that's a really good matchup right there between those two running backs. And then you got Puka Nacua and Cooper Cup. That counters with Amon-Ra St. Brown and Jameson Williams. And then you got the better quarterback in Matthew Stafford over Jared Goff. And you got the Super Bowl champions in Aaron Donald and Cooper Cup, Sean McVay, Stafford. So the road thing could offset all the young guys going on the road too. So both sides struggle defensively. Both sides have kicker problems. The Lions are at home, but they are missing Sam Laporta. So maybe it's not that simple, but they're just a very identical team. Victor, you laid it out. You said it's like the Spider-Man meme looking at each other. So they're very similar, but I'll take the quarterback edge, and I'll take the Super Bowl winning head coach and Sean McVay for this first round matchup.
Yeah, and I mean, this is pretty easy for me, Gilbert. I mean, I can break this down. Like, go and check out our breakdown. But I'll just say this: the Rams have the better coach and the better quarterback. And there's no disrespect towards the Lions. The Lions have been good. They're a great story. They haven't made the playoffs in over 30 years. Last time they were in the playoffs, they lost to the Green Bay Packers and Sterling Sharp and Brett Favre back in 1993. So I understand, and I understand why Lion fans are not happy with the fact that it's Matthew Stafford coming back home instead of it being, hey, we have a great storyline. This is the first time we're in the playoffs. We've resurrected this franchise. You know, there's a lot of people who, have always taught they were kind of like the Clippers for a long time, and now look at the Lions; they're doing great. But the one thing I do worry about with the Rams, Gilbert, they're last, like dead last in special teams. They have like a really bad special teams. If they don't correct that, Gilbert, I think that's where the Lions can win this game. I mean, they're not just last in special teams this season, Gilbert. They're like number 5 all time bad special teams according to DBOA. So,
Not
I
good.
mean, that's not good. And so, as you talked about, both kickers are going to be, I just don't think they're going to be prominent in this game. I just think that, Dan Campbell's going to be aggressive, and so is Sean McVay. I think they're going to take away the kickers out of this game. I think it comes down to the quarterbacks and who has the most pressure. Is it Goff or is it Stafford? And for me, it's Goff. And he's already talking like, hey, I have a chip on my shoulder. That makes me worry about Goff. And he says, I really want to win for this city. And like there's the whole thing, it's his revenge game. It's all on him. And so there's also the thing, Gilbert, with the fact that if he loses this game, we don't know what his future is going forward, especially if Ben Johnson leaves. He's got one more year left in his contract. So what happens with Jared Goff? Do the Lions move on from Jared Goff? Do they, you don't want to be a lamed up quarterback. So there's a lot of questions here with the Lions if they lose here. But like I said, I just think I'm gonna take the better quarterback and the better head coach in this matchup.
Yeah, and I just looked up that Sam Laporta actually spoke to reporters today, and he's saying he's optimistic about playing this week. So I don't know if it's the mind games, and then if he does play, how healthy he is. But I hope he plays. It'll be best on best there, and yeah, you laid it out perfectly. And check out our interview with Kirk Morrison too. He broke down, how Raheem Morris and the defense could play Jared Goff, and he struggles with pressure. And the Lions offensive line is still very good, but they haven't been as good as last year, and that's why the turnovers picked up for Jared Goff. So we'll see how they play with Ernest Jones, Aaron Donald, Kobe Turner, Byron Young. Like, I feel like the Lions might have maybe a little more playmakers defensively than the Rams, but the Rams have a lot of people who know how to do their assignments pretty well. They have a good scheme, and they have Aaron freaking Donald in the middle too. So and don't count out Ernest Jones. But yes, it's good. And to your point, the special teams definitely scares me, and people like to focus only on the kicking game. But all around, that unit is really bad. Punt return, kick return, punt blocking, whatever you want to talk about, long snapping, any type of phase in special teams, gunners, whatever it is, they're pretty bad. And I think about that game that the 49ers won in Green Bay, right? The Packers were the number one seed. I think there was a year that the Rams won the Super Bowl, but the 49ers beat the Packers because they couldn't play special team. They had a bunch of bonehead
Yep.
mistakes on special teams in the snow. It was their game, their environment, and they blew it because they couldn't do anything on special teams. So that matters. I could definitely bite the Rams in the butt. But again, I don't feel confident. I know the Rams are the trendy pick here. But then again, I would just bank on the quarterback, the experience, everything that you mentioned, Victor. So I think we agree there. I don't know. That's a good thing if we're agreeing, and the rest of the country seems to agree. Seeing that line go to -3 now on most sports books tells you the money's coming in. But what's the last one we got?
No, before we get to the last one there, I just want to say it'll be interesting. Tyler Decker hasn't been that good lately for the last couple of weeks. I think he's allowed like 12 to about, or I think 7 sacks in the last 5 games. So I want to see where they line up Aaron Donald, if they line him in front of him, just because we know that the Lions interior of that offensive line is really good. So I wonder if they try to take advantage of it by putting Aaron Donald in front of him there. So just something to keep. And then there's going to be a lot of stunts there but the last thing I'll say before we move on, Gilbert, I think the Lions are going to run the ball a lot here in this game. I don't think we're going to, especially without Laporta. I just think they're going to try to, use Gibbs and Montgomery and feature those two guys, and I think it's going to slow down the game. And we might not get that shootout that we're looking for. It'll probably be a low scoring game.
I don't know. Kyron Williams and Jameer Gibbs know how to take it to the house. So even if they run the football, man, it could be high scoring. But
Yeah, true. That's a
what's up,
good point.
Jorge? Yeah, you saw me earlier on the Chargers season wrap up show on What's Up Boats. Yeah, working hard on this Thursday. No Thursday night football, so I had a little more time to do both here. But welcome for the postseason preview here. Yeah, I've been live all day, and then but you're probably gonna miss Dan Diego because he's not doing the Gilberto chant on this one. I won't make Victor do it, but thank you for always being supportive and seeing us when we go live and jumping on and dropping a comment, Jorge. But we got one more playoff game to break down.
Eagles at Buccaneers. How are you? How are you looking at this one?
Yeah, it's kind of, I hate that it's a Monday game because you kind of just forget about it and you don't care. It's a good game though, I feel like, but I already gave you two underdogs in the Rams, which the Rams don't feel like underdogs to me, but give me the Rams and give me the Texans. So I'll give you
Right.
one more underdog here, and I'll take the Buccaneers +3 at home. I don't know. I feel the Eagles just feel like they want to go home. They're a little fatigued. They're an older crew. They don't have linebackers. They don't have DBs. Jalen Hurts dealing with an injury, and I should have checked the injury report on the
Devontae
Eagles.
Smith. I mean,
But
go ahead.
the reason too with the Eagles, like I made up my mind before, but they're on the Monday schedule, so they don't practice like fully today, Thursday, and they might be a walkthrough, so they don't really practice until Friday, like a real one. So we don't know what the hell's going on with Devontae Smith, Jalen Hurts, and AJ Brown till I think tomorrow, but I'm not gonna wait till Friday to make my pick here. So if those guys are banged up, it's not a good look. Then you got like a mess with the defense, with the you're gonna trust Matt Patricia to call it a good game. The pressure to Nick Sirianni as it get into him, it just feels like a collapse here that we're all just waiting for them to go away. But it wouldn't surprise me. They have the talent edge. They have the experience edge. They have the better quarterback edge. They have a lot of edges here, or advantages. But you know what? I just seen too much where I kept trusting this team. Go beat the Cardinals. Nope. Go beat the Giants. Nope. So I think they lost 5 out of the last 6 games. It's
They
funny
were
because
10-1, Gilbert.
yeah, after that Bills game when they got 10-1, they went the opposite way of the Bills. The Bills won 5 straight, and the Eagles lost 5 out of 6 there. So and then like you're to your point, Victor, you mentioned when they got to 10-1, they're like, and I kept saying, well, they're finding a way. That's fine, they'll get there. And you're like, the way they're winning is not a good look, and then they just collapse. So you called that one right away. So I'm gonna go with the Buccaneers just because they're at home. I'll take a home underdog here just to kind of give me a calculated move. I don't feel good about it, but I like what Mike Evans does. I like that they've won a Super Bowl too. They actually have more experience, probably if you think about it, because they won the whole damn thing and the Eagles lost. So Antoine Winfield Jr. is a great safety. Who's going to get paid. He
Yeah.
did not get the Pro Bowl. I don't know why, but they got some good corners. They got some good pieces there. I think that's why Todd Bowles is a little bit on the fence because he's not able to put that young talent and that championship experience together. Defensively, they have some bad games, they have some good games, and then Baker Mayfield finally cooled down. Like maybe it's a good thing that the Baker Mayfield roller coaster went down a bit against the Panthers and the Saints, so it could go up again for the playoffs because
Yeah.
it's always going to be some kind of downfall with Mayfield, no matter how good of a job Dave Channels is doing out there in Tampa Bay. So give me the Bucks for the upset. I don't feel good about it, but what do you think?
Yeah, I've been torn between this matchup because I'm with you. Everything you laid out is perfectly well said. There's also the thing about the fact that Todd Bowles is really good at blitzing, quarterbacks. And one of the things that Jalen Hurts in his 3 years as a pro can't seem to figure out is how to not only uh how to play against someone who blitz him, but also not having Shane Steichen has really hindered him because they're not able to give him good play calls to go against a blitz package, and that's been part. The other thing, Gilbert, is from what I read, he still hasn't even gripped the ball.
Wow, not
So
good.
that's not good at all. But one of the things that I remember at the beginning of the season, I said, I didn't get this right. One, I don't understand why people don't like to. I give you, I say, 5 new teams are going to make the playoffs. The other thing is the NFC East is always going to have a different division winner. When I told people, hey, the Eagles are going to be a wild card team, it's like you're smoking. I was like, no, look. The other problem is this is a young team who went through a 17 game season the year prior. They've got all the way to the Super Bowl. Now you're bringing the majority of that team back the following season. You're having them go through a long season. The other thing, Gilbert, was their old players got old. Like and then they really missed out on Javon Hargrave. Like replacing him with Jalen Carter has been good, but Jordan Davis has been a bust. Like he hasn't,
Yeah, no standout.
and Graham hasn't been good. Hassan Reddick, I don't know why they were putting him out in coverage. I don't understand that. He's a pass rusher. So as much as I'm laying out all these problems with the Eagles, and I'm telling you, the Buccaneers are there for this to win this game. But I just think that just like I said with the Bills last season, where I'm like I'm not sold on this team. I think they'll win their wild card game, but I think they'll lose in the next division. So I'm picking the Eagles here just to be able to save Nick Sirianni's job. But I think they're gonna get steamrolled in the next round anyway. So I'd rather see the Eagles play whoever it is, because whoever advances from this matchup, they're gonna get steamrolled either way, Gilbert.
Are you taking the points on the Buccaneers at least, or are you expecting the Eagles to cover?
I expect the Eagles to cover.
Okay, and but Marty is saying the Eagles are cooked,
The
cocinados,
Yeah,
on the smoker, on the grill. What type of cook there, Marty? Shout out
yeah.
to you, Marty. Thanks for jumping on. Uh, yeah, I'm surprised you went with the Eagles, but then again, that's the one game we are disagreeing on, so that's good to have some disagreement here. And yeah, we'll see what happens with the Eagles, and you know, and to your point too about the every year is like five new teams that make the playoffs. Like even the Super Bowl teams barely made it. Like Eagles and the Chiefs were limping because of a long season. So that's not enough to remind people, hey, it's not the same every single year. And yeah, so I'm gonna keep that in mind next year. And you forced us to do the exercise, and I did it, and I only got two right, but still, it happened again. Five new playoff teams, and
And there's always one team that goes from last to first. I try to get ahead of it. I picked the Commanders, thinking, man, I'm like, it's either going to be the Commanders or the Bears or one of those teams. I was wrong. There's always one team that goes from last to first.
yeah, no, that happens too. It just you gotta figure out which ones, and then like you see all the moves on paper, the draft, the free agency, and it's kind of like I don't know if I see it. So that's always like the hard part. But
Yeah,
what a mile marker 301 said? Did you run a mile in 3 minutes and 1 second? That'd be I don't know what it is. Sorry, that'd be like a world record, right?
yeah.
Unless I'm terrible with my math, but mile marker, when I lived in LA, the Rams were my team, but I've been in Michigan a long time now. It will be nice to see Stafford, a good man, but come on, Lions. Oh, he changed his tune now to the Lions there. Mile marker. No, I'm not gonna disagree fully there. Obviously it's gonna be a close game, it's gonna be a good game, and if the Lions win, uh I'll say I was wrong, but I would not be surprised. It's just they're two similar teams to me, and I want Sam Laporta to play, and I go toe to toe, mano a mano. But I'm going with the better quarterback and the best head coach there, or not the best, but one of the best head coach. But I feel you though, mile marker. But it's time to do some bets here, and if you guys have anything else you want to chime in terms of the NFL playoffs, the coaching carousel, you ask us a question, me or Victor will answer. So we still got time. We got another 15 or so minutes, but we'll give you our best bets of the week. And Victor, we don't have to go over last week because you kicked my ass again. But we
I
could.
did not. You won. You got
I
two.
won? No
Yeah,
way.
yeah. You won last week. You got two out of
Yeah,
five.
that's why I thought I
I only
lost. I
got
got
one
two
out
out
of
of
five.
three. Well, go ahead.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, you got 2 out of 5, and I got it was a bad, just because there wasn't a lot of games we can actually bet on.
Nah.
There wasn't a lot of lines out there, just because, the Vegas wasn't about to lose money, so they didn't put out a lot of, they kind of played it conservatively. But you got the Bills and the Dolphins under 49 and a half. You got that one right. And then you got the Jets and the Patriots
Right.
under.
All of them
uh,
were under, Vic. I should have just
yeah,
gone under in all of them.
Yep, exactly. Especially for the last week of the season. The only one I got right last week was that Texans versus Colts. I just went with the pick 'em. I picked the Texans, so that's the only one. So for the season, we finished. I have 103 points, and you have 82.
All right.
If you want to explain to the
Closing the
people,
gap. But yeah, what we do is well, let me read this comment here from Extreme. You were
yep,
on our
it
House
was
of
a
Horns channel yesterday. So shout out to you for coming back, Extreme. We appreciate that. And hopefully you like the analysis. We try to kind of give you a little bit of both sides. And I know we're both picking the Rams here, but you came back for a reason. So maybe you do like the breakdown here, Extreme. And yeah, that if Eminem's on the sideline there, uh I don't know, man. I might have to change my pick here, but that's pretty cool. That Eminem's going to be on the sideline there for Sunday night. And didn't he have like a tweet that was pretty funny that went viral? Eminem after the Lions won the division, he was like, or what do you say? Oh, I
Yeah,
did
he
it.
said he said bring back Ben Johnson.
Well, that too, but he was like, "Oh, I did it," and he's like, "Oh, I meant we did it," or something like that. He like
Yeah.
had to fix his tweet there, so it was pretty funny. But welcome back, Extreme, and I'm glad you like the content here, and I can't wait for Sunday Night Football. It should be a great game all around. If the Lions win and Eminem's on the sideline, I'm gonna be like, man, I was wrong. I should have. The second you told me Eminem was out there, I should have changed my mind. But we'll see what happens. And but yeah, on the best five bets that we have here, if you're new to the show, we pick five bets, but we kind of have like a point system. The one we feel the most confident about will be 5 points, and then so on and so on. 4 points, 3 points, 2 points, 1 point, and then we kind of do the total at the end of the week. And for the season, Victor laid it out. He has like a 20-point lead on me. I had a good start, but then I really faded like the Eagles there. So maybe I'll catch up here for our best bets.
And we'll
And
get to Delver
yeah,
Salgado's comment after best bet. So I mean, yeah, our betting locks of the week. So Delbert, just hang in there, and we'll get to your question.
Yeah, thank you, Daryl, for the question. We'll get to it pretty soon. But for me, the one I feel most confident about, but this is the one we were split on. So give me for my 5 pointer the Buccaneers +3 over the Eagles. Maybe the Eagles win the game, but I think it's gonna be pretty close. But maybe even a push if it's 3 points. Some of these lines are changing. I think the I want to see the Bucks might have been like a +4.5. So maybe people are taking the money on the Bucks here. I could be wrong on what I just mentioned there, but it was something above three, like 3.5 for sure. Now it's three, and I just when I updated earlier today, and then again the Rams one went down a bit. Victor, is okay to go? Are we going with 3 or 3.5? I saw you had 3.5.
I let's go with three. That's fine. I'll
All right,
change it.
make
I'll
it a little bit
change it.
more difficult.
Yep.
But my 4 pointer, I'll take the Rams +3 over the Lions. So maybe the Lions do win, and I get my bet here on the Rams covering by 3. And then I'm taking a bunch of plus points here. Give me the Packers +7. I don't feel too good about it. I wish it was 7.5, but that's another one that's going down too. So taking the plus points, people are pounding that right now, and it's changing a little bit, so making it a little more difficult. I want to say at one sports book I saw it was like +10 Packers, but that was yesterday, so things have really changed. Unless that one was tripping, but my 3 pointer was Packers +7. My 2 pointer now is give me the under in the Ice Bowl of the
Yes.
Chiefs Dolphins, and it's 43.5. And yeah, people think the Dolphins can score points. No, they really can't, and they're gonna play in a cold environment. They're gonna play a very good Chiefs defense with Chris Jones, and then also the Chiefs offense can't really score points. So maybe they'll run the football like Isaiah Pacheco, and I'll get the under on the 43.5. And for my last one, Bill, I don't feel too good about this. So that's why my 1 pointer. Bills, Steelers. I'm taking the over 35.5. Remember last week, Victor? I'm like, why is it 35.5 for Steelers Ravens? It feels too low. And I took the over and I kept watching that game. Like, nobody's gonna score a freaking point because they're fumbling every other play. So I got burned on that one. And then you see the Bills weather report. We're in Buffalo weather report. High winds, gonna be a snowy game. But it feels too low for a Josh Allen game. Like, even if they score 20 points and maybe the Steelers get 14, I still get the or I guess it'll be 34. But it's an easy path, I feel like, to get to 35.5 when you have a Josh Allen, when you have a playoff setting. Like, remember last week it was like the Ravens backups. Like, maybe the Ravens could have scored 30 points by themselves. Who knows? But
Yeah.
I'm taking the over on the 35.5 Bills Steelers.
Those are some good ones. I like them. All right, let me start off with my number five. I'm going with the Browns and Texans under 44.5. Um, Browns Texans. The reason I like this as the under is because the Browns are getting a bunch of their guys on defense back. And then they, as you talked about, they're getting some of their um they rested some of their guys. So there's also that. My only concern when I forgot about this, Gilbert, is their cornerback got hurt today during practice. I'm blanking on his name. The one that he hasn't been playing for a while now. It's
Denzel Ward?
Yes, Denzel Ward got hurt
Oh wow,
during
I didn't even see
practice.
that.
So that's the only thing that
I
worries me
did.
about this bet. But like I just think the Browns are going to keep it close, and it's going to be it's going to be a defensive struggle for both teams. I think Flacco's going to throw a couple of interceptions. So Give me the 44.5 under. My number 4 is the Rams +3 against the Lions. We talked about it. I really like the coaching and the quarterback over Dan Campbell and Jared Goff. My number 3 is the Steelers +10 versus the Bills. I just think they're going to keep it close. As I said, they're going to run the ball, and the Bills we've seen they've allowed teams to stay in games and keep it close, and they pull it out, but I just think it's too big of a line, Gilbert. My number 2 is I'm going with the prop bet. Josh Allen over 250 and a half
Wow, and
yards.
the high winds and the snow. I like it.
Yeah, I just think it's gonna be you mentioned a name, and I just think he's gonna dump off the ball to
Yeah,
Jared Cook, and I think
James Cook,
yeah, James Cook. Sorry, James Cook. Jared Cook was a tight end.
tight end.
So I like that one as a prop. And then my number 1 is Packers Cowboys 50.5 over. I just think it's
Yeah, that's a good
indoors.
one.
Yeah, and they're gonna run up the score on in this game. Like I told you, big CD Lamb game. Like I said, if you can find some prop bets on CD Lamb on his over, I would take the over on receiving yards.
Yeah, you got some good ones there. I want it to be different from you because I got to catch up. I'm 20 points behind, so I can't really catch up. We have the same bet, so I do like that one pointer you have. I probably would have raised that one on mine. The Josh Allen one does scare me, but it's Josh Allen. He could definitely get the yards.
Yeah.
And then I do like the Steelers +10, but for some reason I could still see a blowout because the Steelers are the Steelers, and as Alonso mentioned, Steelers are in the playoffs. Yeah, they somehow made it, and maybe I'm the jinx here because when they lost to the Cardinals, that was maybe 4 or 5 games ago, and I said they're not making the playoffs. This team stinks. They have Kenny Pickett. They can't score points, and they went on to lose to the Patriots, and they lost to the Colts. I'm like, cool. I got my pick right. I counted out Mike Tomlin. It's okay. We'll be fine. And then they go to Mason Rudolph, and they win 3 games in a row, and everything broke their way. The Titans beat the Jaguars, and they had a backdoor entrance into the playoffs. And I'm like, ah, crap. That's what I get for counting out Mike Tomlin. So hey, but I did not see the Miss Mason Rudolph quick rise, but there was a couple glimpses last week that the Mason Rudolph train about to hit a wall here. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, they are in the playoffs. They somehow made it in, and it is a little surprising. But those are our best bets there. And before we head out, maybe another 5 more minutes. If you guys have any more questions, we'll answer them. But right now, I'll get to Delbert's question here. With this coaching carousel, your opinion on what the great football organizations you would choose, or what are the great football organizations you would choose? So, yeah, it's actually a good question. We've been discussing it. Obviously, people want to get from the Rams, they want to get from the 49ers, they want to get the Baltimore Ravens. Patriots are kind of lost a little luster, but there's still connections there. Uh, but yeah, anybody who wins, man, like they want, especially the GM searches. You're always seeing the GM candidates who are like the number 3 or the number 2 or the assistant to the assistant regional manager, assistant GM get in an interview because they work with the Ravens or they work, with the 49ers. So uh, people like that get a lot of opportunities in the NFL. So uh, hopefully I wrote your question correct here, but yeah, and it's I know they get forced to do extensive interviews, but I'm seeing some long list of interviews, and hopefully people get some fair opportunities, and get some diversity going too. Not the same 5 or 6 names, but yeah, definitely go look for a gem, go find a gem, and the best way to do it is for these great football organizations, like you alluded to, Delbert.
So to his question, Gilbert, I'm not going to ask you what the most attractive job is out of the ones that are available, but which one has the best organization in terms of from top to bottom. Like I understand, like if you're like the Patriots, I know a lot of people say they're interested in that, but I don't know what to expect from them. Robert Kraft, we haven't seen him as an owner outside of having Belichick and Brady, so I don't know. I understand why people like him and why I don't understand why he's even a Hall of Famer, but I get it. His team won a lot, and so we have to reward people for that. So then you have Arthur Blank and the Falcons, and they have a GM there. You have Seattle with Snyder and the new ownership there. So for you, what is the like? What would be like the number one structure or the number one, I guess, from his question or for what he's saying.
Yeah, and real quick to add more teams, obviously I'm blanking on the Chiefs. I'm blanking on the Eagles also being a great organizations to kind of pick people from. But looking at the list of 8 here, I think I might lean with Seattle, especially if Pete Carroll is in an advisor role. You do have John Schneider, still a very successful GM. You have a nice roster. You have some good ownership there. Obviously, you need the quarterback. But the other ones, like, obviously with the Chargers, you don't know about the Spano family. With the Raiders, you've seen Mark Davis take a lot of whiffs, especially with coaching, and they also need a quarterback there. I don't need to spend time on the Panthers. They are definitely a terrible franchise right now. The Commanders seem like they're on the up, but it's a brand new ownership. I get that this Josh Harris person has done pretty well because I don't care about hockey, but somebody was telling me that the Devils are doing well. I'm like, cool, good for him. The 76ers are doing well. Well, this is football, so I don't know what to expect there with the Commanders. They've been a dumpster fire for many years. And credit to Ron Rivera for making them respectable. I know he got fired, but he made them respectable. He had to clean out all the mess, all the lawsuits, all the crap like that, and he did that. So shout out to Ron Rivera. So they're a little bit on the up, on the up. And the Falcons, I don't know, they kind of just seem like a nonchalant franchise. They kind of go with the motions and the flow. And is like go get a quarterback, and they never really did it. So, but they've had some success there in Atlanta. So maybe from this list here, it could be number 2. Is it the Patriots? I like Robert Kraft, but like they've lost for the last 3 out of 4 years. They're going through uncharted territory. So I don't know what's gonna happen with Gerard Mayer. If that is the plan there, but and again, I don't know what's going on with the tight ends because the owner is seems to want some changes, and maybe it wasn't the best approach. But I think Seattle might be my number 1. I don't know how you feel about that.
Yeah, no, I like the way you broke it down just because too, like think about the Commanders too, Gilbert. Like their field is in terrible shape. They're thinking about moving the team, at least when they were with Dan Snyder, they were thinking about moving it to Virginia or somewhere. And so there's a lot of questions too. The facility isn't great there. Same thing with the Panthers. You already talked about Tepper, but they don't have a football facility either. They need to upgrade things there. I think I, I like your pick of the Seahawks. They have a new stadium. They have nice facilities. You've been to it. I would think that the Chargers, who now are going to have a new facility as well, they'll be ready to go soon. They have SoFi Stadium, even though they share it. And I think it's a bit underrated. I know people always talk about Mark Davis, but they got Allegiant Stadium and they also have a nice facility too there. So I think those are the kind of things that players think about. But in terms of like from top to bottom, I'm with you. Seattle is the one. I think that would be one where they have everything together. Where it's the ownership. We saw Paul Allen passed away, and so he ended up selling the team. But it seems like the structure there with John Schneider, Pete Carroll, and and their facilities and the stadium, they have everything you would want.
Yeah, no, they got to find the quarterback, which is a really hard part. But I think that's where the Chargers are kind of like top 3, top 4 because they have Justin Herbert. They're definitely they have the quarterback advantage from all these other openings here.
Yep,
So,
I agree.
but I think the Seahawks check off most of the boxes there. But and shout out to you, Delbert. Appreciate you watching and it's not a full Rams show, but you're still supporting, and we love that. We talk all NFL here on the Looking Ahead show. But that's it. I think we covered all the entire playoffs, and we covered the coaching news. We did some sports bets here. Jorge came back because he saw me put in work earlier with the What's Up Boats. So quick promos. Check out everything on What's Up Boats or Fernando Ramirez, Dan and Diego. We had a recap show of the season. I was trying to talk a little bit of draft and free agency, and like, nope, it's all about the coaching hire and yeah, I don't blame the people there because that's definitely a big part of it. And then when you get the coach, you start thinking a little more ahead. So, uh, still a good show, and subscribe to that channel too. And then House of Horns, we got a bunch of things that came out this week too. The Kirk Morrison video is doing well. We also put the Kirk Morrison video on the Compas on the Beat channel, and we laid out the point where like he said that Jim Harbaugh could stay in Michigan, and Chargers fans did not like that. But it's okay to have both sides. You can't just be getting the positivity and saying, yeah, it's going to happen. And then you're disappointed. Well, no, Kirk Morrison gave you the other side of it too. So check out the video on Compas on the Beat. Compas on the Beat is our main channel. You're probably watching from Compas on the Beat. We have this video streaming on House of Horns and What's Up Both, so 3 different platforms. And that's the cool thing about this network. It's growing and growing. I got this cool little thing right here to show that we're growing a little bit here. We got the cool logo above my head, that this background that Victor did. That's why he's Victor producer. He produced a lot of content here. So shout out to you, Victor. And we like seeing all the comments and people engaging on the live chat. We like people, also helping us grow. Because I keep asking for donations because we're trying to get to Super Bowl Radio Row. So you can help us out there. Check out the links in the description. We have a PayPal link for donations, and we'll use the money for equipment. We'll use the money for housing, and just to create content, and just kind of all these guys work their butts off to hang out with me and just chat football after they're done working in the daytime, and then we're spending a lot of nights here. And then you guys make it so much easier. So we really appreciate that. But if you want to help out, check out the links in the description. If you don't want to just give us your money, that's okay. Check out the merch website, certifiedcompas.shop. You get a Compas hoodie, you could get a Compas hat, shirt. We got a bunch of things on the website, and that will help us too with getting some equipment and things like that. And then the third way is just watch one of the live channels here, and maybe you could give a donation through a super sticker, a super chat, super like, or super whatever. And we've been getting some of those coming in too, and it means the world to us. So just some quick promos there, how to help out the network. But overall, people hanging out with me and Victor on a Thursday night definitely goes a long way as well.
Yeah, and it's been awesome to see just the growth on all 3 channels. So, and then I'm sure you guys got a lot of feedback on that live show that you guys did on What's Up Both. So that's
Yeah.
pretty cool to see just how much the all 3 of these channels are growing. I know people were upset about that Harbaugh video, but hey, Kirk Morrison laid it out there, and he gave some good points. So that's all you can ask for.
Yeah, nothing wrong with giving your opinion and keeping it honest and being authentic. So that's okay. But anything else, Vic? Are we ready to go?
We're ready to go. Close up
Cool.
shop.
All right, enjoy the football games, and was it Saturday football, Sunday football, and that Monday night football game as well. So, good luck with your picks. Good luck to your respective teams if your team's in the playoffs. And then we'll check back in with everybody next week. But you'll see me and Victor for House of Horns to break down Rams versus Lions. So make sure to keep tabs on that Sunday night. But on that note, ya nos vamos. Pues on to the wild card weekend. Vámonos.